1 cent, a coin we often overlook, yet in the world of coin collecting, certain Lincoln pennies have become legends worth thousands. Welcome to Rare Coins Numix, where we uncover the stories behind these tiny treasures. Stick around, because the change in your pocket might be worth far more than you ever imagined. Let's begin today's journey with a coin that might surprise you. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ordinary penny, small, copper-colored, and easy to ignore. Yet this coin carries a story that stunned collectors and turned a single cent into a fortune. We're talking about the 1974 1-cent penny. Pennies are everywhere. They roll under car seats, pile up in change jars, and often get dismissed as worthless pocket change. But once in a while, a penny hides a secret, one that transforms it from everyday spare change into a collector's dream. And the 1974 penny is one of those rare treasures. To understand why, we need to step back into 1974. America was facing serious economic challenges. Inflation was rising, prices were climbing, and copper, the main ingredient in pennies, was becoming so expensive that producing the coin was almost a losing game. Imagine this: the U.S. Mint was paying nearly 1 cent's worth of copper just to make a penny. Clearly, something had to change. This is when the U.S. Mint began experimenting with alternatives, including the now legendary aluminum cents. More than 1 million aluminum prototypes were struck, but almost all were ordered to be destroyed. Only a tiny handful are rumored to still exist, making them almost mythical in the coin world. But while those experimental pieces never entered circulation, the regular copper 1974 pennies became symbols of this turning point in U.S. coinage history. And out of them all, the Denver Mint pennies, marked with the tiny D beneath the date, gained special attention. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of them, but the story didn't end there. Think about what happens to the average penny over 50 years. It gets dropped on sidewalks, scraped in vending machines, rattled around in pockets, and handled by countless hands until it's worn down to almost nothing. Most of those pennies are now dull, brown, and worth exactly 1 cent. But a tiny fraction escaped circulation, tucked away in rolls, bags, or collections the day they were minted. These untouched survivors are what collectors crave: sharp, lustrous, and preserved just as they looked in 1974. Condition, in the coin world, is everything. A worn coin might only be worth face value, but a coin in flawless, mint state condition can be worth hundreds, even thousands. And that's where the 1974 penny shines. In its highest grades, with blazing red luster and sharp details, it's a showstopper. And then, there's the added twist: minting errors. Some 1974 pennies were struck with doubling on the date, repunched mint marks, or even dramatic off-center strikes. These rare mistakes are like hidden signatures from the minting process itself, making each coin one of a kind. When rarity and condition come together with an error, collectors are willing to pay astonishing sums. Picture holding one of these gems in your hand. Lincoln's portrait stands out in crisp detail, the date is sharp, and the coin glows with the fiery red brilliance of fresh copper. It feels nothing like the tired, worn pennies we see every day. Instead, it's alive, a perfect time capsule carrying both the artistry of the Denver Mint and the economic struggles of the 1970s. For decades, most people overlooked the 1974 penny. It passed through cash registers, got lost in couch cushions, and was dismissed as ordinary. But slowly, collectors began to recognize its hidden value. High-grade examples started appearing at auctions, and when they did, the bidding wars were fierce. And then, history was made. A pristine 1974 penny, preserved in extraordinary condition, went to auction. Collectors knew this was more than just a coin, it was a piece of American history, tied to a time of inflation, experimentation, and change. The bidding climbed higher and higher until finally, the hammer fell. That 1-cent coin sold for an incredible $80,000. Think about that for a moment. A coin you could have overlooked in your pocket change, suddenly worth more than a luxury car, or even enough to put a down payment on a house. That's the magic of numismatics: history, rarity, and condition colliding in the most unexpected places. The 1974 D penny teaches us an important lesson: never underestimate the smallest coin in your pocket. What looks like spare change to one person could be a hidden treasure to another. Collectors know that a coin's true value isn't just in its face value, it's in its story, its condition, and the secrets it carries from the past. And who knows? The next great discovery might be sitting quietly in a jar of pennies in your home right now, waiting for someone with a careful eye to notice it. Coins like these remind us that treasures don't always come in golden boxes or treasure chests. Sometimes, they jingle softly in our change. So the next time you're about to toss a handful of cents aside, take a closer look. Every scratch, every detail, and every mint mark could be the key to unlocking something incredible. Because sometimes, the most overlooked pieces hold the greatest surprises, and maybe, just maybe, the next penny you find could be worth a fortune. And when that moment comes, you'll realize that even the humblest coin can change everything. Top 2, and this one is truly special. Our next coin is a penny that doesn't just represent everyday change, it represents one of the most surprising discoveries in modern U.S. coinage. We're talking about the 1983 Lincoln D penny. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ordinary cent, same coppery tone, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the classic reverse design we've all seen 1,000 times. But here's the twist: beneath that ordinary appearance lies a story that stunned collectors and turned a single cent into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. The year 1983 was a turning point for U.S. coinage. Just a year earlier, in 1982, the mint made a bold and historic decision. For more than 100 years, Lincoln cents had been made primarily from copper. But as copper prices skyrocketed in the late 1970s and early 1980s, producing a penny that cost almost as much to make as it was worth became unsustainable. The solution? A dramatic switch in composition, from solid copper to copper-plated zinc. Now, to most people, that sounds like a small change. But to coin collectors, it opened the door to endless varieties, errors, and surprises. In fact, 1982 alone gave us 7 different types of pennies, some copper, some zinc, some small date, some large date, a mix that collectors still obsess over today. And by 1983, the mint had fully transitioned to zinc cents. Or so everyone thought. At the Denver Mint, millions upon millions of pennies rolled off the presses in 1983, all bearing that little D mint mark beneath the date. Almost all of them were ordinary. They rattled around in soda machines, piled up in jars, and passed from hand to hand without anyone paying them a second thought, but as is often the case in the world of coins, a tiny fraction turned out to be anything but ordinary. Some were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets from 1982, an incredible minting error that shouldn't have existed, but somehow slipped through. Others displayed unusual doubling or striking flaws, each one a unique fingerprint of the minting process. And then there were the rare survivors, coins that somehow escaped decades of wear and tear, preserved in stunning, mint-state condition as if time itself forgot about them. Think about it. A typical penny is scratched, dull, and worn down after years of circulation. But now picture one that never saw that fate, still blazing with fiery red luster, every detail razor sharp, Lincoln's profile crisp, and the date and mint mark bold and clean. To most people it's just another cent. To a collector, it's a dream. And here's what makes the 1983 D penny even more fascinating: it isn't just a collectible, it's a time capsule of change. It represents the moment America officially said goodbye to copper cents and embraced a new era of zinc coinage. That's why collectors chase it, not just for its beauty or rarity, but for the piece of history it carries in its metal. Now picture holding one in your hand. It gleams under the light, looking worlds apart from the dull brown coins in your pocket. The difference is so striking that you can't help but stop and stare. And in that moment, you realize you're holding more than a coin, you're holding a story, a symbol, and possibly a fortune. And speaking of fortunes, here's the headline that made the world stop and pay attention. One of these extraordinary 1983 D pennies appeared at auction, preserved in breathtaking condition. Collectors knew it would fetch a premium, but no one could have predicted the final hammer price. When the bidding war ended, that tiny 1-cent piece sold for a jaw-dropping $69,000. $69,000 for a penny. That's the true magic of coin collecting. It's where history, rarity, condition, and just the right amount of luck come together in a way that feels almost unbelievable. A coin that seems insignificant to one person can turn out to be a treasure chest for another. What makes this story even more exciting is the fact that there are still millions of 1983 D pennies out there. They're tucked away in old coffee cans, resting at the bottom of dusty jars, lying forgotten in drawers, or rattling around in change purses across the country. Each one holds the potential to be something extraordinary. Think about it, how many times have you handled pennies without giving them a second glance? Yet among them could be another hidden gem, waiting patiently for the right eyes to notice. The odds may be slim, but history proves it's possible, and that's what keeps collectors searching. The thrill is not just in the value, but in the hunt itself. Every time you check your change, every time you roll up coins, you might be one step away from discovering a piece of history worth far more than its face value. So, the next time you're counting pennies, don't rush. Take a second look. Examine the details. Because sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin carries an extraordinary story. And who knows? The next penny you find could be the one that changes everything. Top 3, and for this spot we move into the 1990s, a decade full of change, technology, and new beginnings. While the world was racing forward with new inventions and the rise of digital life, one tiny copper-colored coin continued to pass quietly from hand to hand, the Lincoln penny. And among all those billions of coins struck during the decade, one year in particular produced a treasure that few ever noticed at first, the 1994 1-cent penny. At a glance, this coin seems so ordinary that most people wouldn't think twice about it. The familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln stares calmly forward, the date, 1994, tucked just to the right, and on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial still stands as a proud symbol of American history. It was a design Americans had seen for decades, so familiar that it faded into the background of daily life. But the truth is, even in years when nothing special seemed to be happening, extraordinary coins were still being made, coins that would one day rise far above their face value. By 1994, the penny was already being ignored by many. Prices were rising, and a single cent no longer bought much of anything. Most people didn't bother to bend down and pick one up from the sidewalk. They were left in tip jars, forgotten in pockets, or dumped by the handful into coin jars at home. This lack of attention is exactly what makes the 1994 penny story so fascinating, because hidden within that sea of indifference, a few rare survivors would one day shock the collecting world. Most pennies from 1994 endured rough lives. They were spent endlessly, shuffled through vending machines, scratched against metal trays, dropped on pavements, and scarred from decades of circulation. Their once bright red copper surfaces dulled to brown, their details faded with each passing year. But not all of them shared that fate. A very small number avoided circulation entirely, protected from the wear and tear of daily use. Some were put away unintentionally, forgotten in rolls or tucked into collections. Others were deliberately saved by people who recognized the brilliance of their luster. These rare survivors remain today in breathtaking condition, gleaming with the same radiance they had on the day they were struck at the U.S. Mint. Condition is the great divider in coin collecting. The same year, the same design, the same mint, but if one coin is worn and another is perfectly preserved, the difference in value is staggering. For the 1994 penny, coins that stayed pristine, with their fiery red surfaces and sharp details untouched, became prized possessions for collectors. Every line of Lincoln's hair, every letter in the inscriptions, and every tiny architectural feature of the memorial mattered. The closer to perfection, the higher the value. But the story doesn't end with condition alone. The minting process itself sometimes produced quirks and errors that added even more intrigue. Certain 1994 pennies are known to show subtle variations, small details that slipped past inspection but were caught by the careful eyes of collectors. Whether it's a repunched mint mark, a slight doubling on the lettering, or an off-center strike, these imperfections create unique personalities for the coins. And when you combine rarity, condition, and collector demand, the result is nothing short of extraordinary. Now, think about this. How many people in 1994 carried one of these coins without a second thought? They jingled in lunch money, paid for bus rides, and slipped into piggy banks. Nobody imagined that 3 decades later, one of those very pennies could stand at the center of numismatic attention. Yet here we are, and the proof is undeniable. The 1994 Lincoln penny has achieved something almost poetic. It took what the world ignored and elevated it into something of immense worth. And that worth has been measured not in small gains, but in numbers that leave collectors astonished. Today, the finest known examples of the 1994 penny are valued not at hundreds, not at thousands, but at $57,000. Yes, from 1 cent to $57,000. Not auction records, not a one-time fluke, but a recognized value placed upon this small copper coin when it reaches the highest level of preservation. It's a reminder that hidden treasures can come from any year, any mint, and any pocket. All it takes is survival, rarity, and a collector's eye to reveal their true worth. And that's why the 1994 penny holds its place in today's countdown. It's not just a coin, it's a lesson. A lesson that even the smallest, most ordinary object can hold extraordinary value if it's preserved, recognized, and appreciated for what it truly is. It proves that history doesn't just live in museums or books, it can live in the palm of your hand. Every coin tells a story, and some, like this one, whisper louder with time. The 1994 penny is more than metal, it is memory, mystery, and meaning fused into a single cent. And that is what makes it unforgettable. Top 4, and to close out today's journey through rare and valuable pennies, let's talk about a coin that may surprise many of you, the 2016 USA Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it feels like just another modern cent, something you've probably seen dozens of times in your change. But hidden within this year's mintage are pieces that collectors consider far more than just pocket change. The 2016 penny carries the familiar design we all know, Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, sharp and detailed as ever, and on the reverse, the Union shield standing boldly as a symbol of strength and unity. This shield design had replaced the Lincoln Memorial back in 2010, marking a new chapter in the history of the penny. While the design itself doesn't make this year rare, the true story lies in the unexpected treasures hidden among the billions of coins produced. What makes 2016 pennies so fascinating isn't the ordinary examples you find everywhere, but the unusual ones. These can include coins with striking die errors, such as double dies where lettering or details appear shadowed or doubled. Some may have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, or even rare planchet errors where the coin was struck on the wrong kind of metal. These errors instantly elevate a penny from being common pocket change into a collectible that sparks excitement among numismatists. But rarity isn't always about errors. Condition also plays a massive role. The vast majority of 2016 pennies entered circulation, quickly picking up scratches, dings, and dull surfaces. They were carried in wallets, scraped across counters, and rattled in change jars. Yet, a handful of pristine examples managed to survive untouched, coins that gleam with original mint luster and flawless detail. For collectors, finding a 2016 penny in top condition, graded as nearly perfect, can feel like striking gold. Now, think about how many of these coins you've likely handled without a second thought. They've been slipped into vending machines, dropped into tip jars, and left forgotten in desk drawers. Yet somewhere out there, a 2016 penny could be hiding in plain sight, one of those rare examples that transforms a single cent into a piece worth thousands. That possibility is what makes this coin so thrilling. And the beauty of it is this: the 2016 penny proves that you don't have to go back 100 years to uncover a valuable coin. Even something minted less than a decade ago can surprise you with incredible worth if it has the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand. It's a reminder that treasure doesn't always come with age, sometimes, it comes disguised as something modern and ordinary. This coin also teaches us something important about collecting: value is never about what the majority sees, but what the few recognize. Most people see just another penny, while a trained eye sees history, rarity, and potential. That contrast is what makes numismatics so rewarding. And here's the fascinating part: the 2016 penny sits as a bridge between the past and the present. Older Lincoln cents, like the wheat-backed pennies of the early 1900s, are celebrated for their history. Mid-century issues with the Lincoln Memorial are remembered with nostalgia. And now, the shield reverse pennies represent the modern age. By standing out as a rare and valuable modern piece, the 2016 penny proves that every era of coinage has its hidden gems. Collectors often say that coins like this remind us to slow down and look closer. In a fast-moving digital age where everything seems disposable, a simple copper-colored coin can still capture our imagination and command serious respect. It's not just about the money, it's about holding on to a piece of history that most people overlooked. So, if you come across a shiny 2016 Lincoln penny, think twice before spending it. Flip it over, look closely, and pay attention to its condition and details. That small coin in your pocket could actually be a treasure hiding in plain sight. Don't treat it as ordinary change, because its true worth might be far greater than you expect. And that brings us to the end of today's journey through rare and valuable Lincoln pennies. From the timeless classics of the past to modern surprises like the 2016 cent, we've seen how every coin has its own story to tell. Some whisper tales of history, others shock us with hidden errors, but together they remind us that even the smallest piece of change can carry extraordinary value. Each penny we explored today proves one powerful lesson: never underestimate what might be hiding in plain sight. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance could turn out to be a collector's dream, holding secrets that only a sharp eye can uncover. So the next time you reach into your pocket or sort through your change jar, pause for a moment. Look closely. Because your next great discovery might already be waiting in your hands, ready to rewrite its destiny. As we wrap up this video, remember, the world of coins is full of surprises. Some treasures are buried in the past, and some are still being made today, quietly slipping into circulation. And with every discovery, the excitement only grows, the stories become richer, and the values more astonishing. Thank you so much for joining us on this adventure into the world of Lincoln pennies. If you enjoyed the journey, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss out on the next rare coin story. Your support keeps these discoveries alive, and together we'll keep uncovering the hidden gems of numismatics.